Hello, and welcome to Office Hours, where I answer your questions about weight and weight medicine. I'm Dr. Meghan. I'm a board-certified physician in internal medicine, lifestyle medicine, and obesity medicine. And this is really important because I actually prescribe these medications all the time. I actually talk to patients about their weight all the time. I've helped hundreds of patients lose weight, and I'm here to help you too. So if you're confused about your weight, if you have questions about weight medicines, and if you want medically based, fact-based answers to your weight questions, you are in the right place. Welcome. As a caveat, as always, I can't answer personal medical questions because I'm not your personal doctor. So if one of these questions does lean a little bit personal, I'm going to change it slightly so it's more broadly educationally applicable. And as a reminder, these questions come from the community. Thank you to everyone for sending in your really amazing, insightful questions. And if you have a question after this video, you can leave it on this video, you can comment on this video, you can comment on another video, and I will find it and add it to the list. So thank you so much, and let's get started. First question. I am on a maintenance dose of Zepbound, 2.5 every 10 days. I am being advised to stop by my provider, but the reason was not stated. He only said, you can't stay on it forever. My blood pressure is better controlled, inflammation is down, and I am not experiencing side effects. I use Lilly Direct and can afford the medication. Would you advise me to stop if I were your patient? Thank you. What a great question. So, thank you so much for sending this in. I think this is something that probably a lot of you out there are experiencing. So, let's get into the details. So if I have a patient who only needs 2.5 milligrams of Zepbound every 10 days to maintain their weight, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. Usually that doesn't happen a lot. That's usually somebody who's what I would call like a super responder. They're doing really well. They don't need to go up any further. They've found where they're comfortable. They don't even need it every 7 days. They can go every 10 days and it's keeping them where they are. That's great. I love that. And I do have some patients like this. Not a lot, but I do. And what I do is nothing after that. I just keep them there because the real truth is that these medications right now at the time of this filming, they are forever. When you go off of them, people gain the weight back. We see this in studies. I see this in real time in the clinic. People lose access to their medications because their insurance doesn't cover it, or their pharmacy doesn't supply it anymore, or for whatever, they go on Medicare. There's so many reasons why, unfortunately, people have an interruption in their doses, or they just can't afford it anymore. That unfortunately does happen. And what I see is that the weight creeps back on. And I have a couple patients where this has happened and it started like that week. I have some patients where it starts a bit more gradually. So that really depends on the person. But I will say to any patient in my office that if somebody tells you for Zepbound, for Wegovy, for phentermine, for these weight medications, if you can't stay on it forever, that's not true. In fact, you should stay on it forever. And that is the discussion that's really important to have initially with the patient, is that this is a forever medication. Now, again, like I always say, I can't see the future. I don't know what things are going to be like in 5 years and 10 years. I don't know what protocols are going to be. But right now, at this time, in 2025, the medications are forever. And that means don't go off of them unless you want to gain weight. So if somebody tells my patient, if they see a family member over the holidays, if they're at the gym, I don't know, if they're talking to somebody and somebody says, well, you can't stay on this medication forever, that's just not true. Don't listen to them. Anybody out there who is struggling with this, you want to find a doctor who is very used to prescribing these medications, who's knowledgeable about it, who does it all the time. Again, you can always go to the American Board of Obesity Medicine, find a doctor in your area. That's a great resource if you're in the United States. If you are outside the United States, your country may have a similar board, which could be a great resource for you as well. But you can't stay on it forever. That's a lie. Thank you so much for sending in that question. Next question. Hello from Italy. Hello. I've been on Wegovy for 4 months. I started at 112 kilograms and have lost 13 kilograms. I'm now at a dose of 1.7. The problem is, since I reached the 1.0 milligram dose, I've had to divide the weekly dose into 7 daily doses. If I don't, I feel very sick, as in severe nausea, on the 2nd and 3rd days. And then by the 6th and 7th days, I feel no effect from the medication. I've been writing to many doctors to get their opinion on dividing the single weekly dose into daily doses, but I haven't received a response yet. Okay. This is a question that I haven't gotten yet. So thank you so much for sending this in. And of course, as always, I can't answer personal medical advice, but a question of, can you do daily dosing with a weekly pen? I don't know exactly what the pens look like in other countries, but I'm guessing they're pretty much exactly the same. And I think that is going to be pretty difficult to do in a safe, sterile manner with the current pens. Now, even the vials that Lilly Direct has, those are single-use vials. They are not meant to be used for multiple uses. Like, they know what they're doing. They're not helping you out from that perspective in terms of like, maybe I'll just save it and use it. No, they know what they're doing. It is not something that I would recommend to any patient that they extend out. It's a single-use vial. I would also say that, some people I do have patients that 2nd and 3rd day are really difficult for them. And so if I have a patient and we know that in this specific time window, they always have nausea, or they always have diarrhea, or they always have like some, like we can kind of set their watch by it. I usually just have them do a prophylactic dose of medication. So if I have a patient and they have nausea like 48 hours after their injection, I just tell them to start the Zofran right before that time period occurs. That way you can get ahead of the curve and you don't have to feel nauseous for a whole day. So I just like to preempt that as much as possible when it can be done. The other thing I would say, if somebody asked me about daily dosing, is, hey, maybe you might be a better candidate for something like Saxenda, which is dosed daily. Now, Saxenda, you run the risk of maybe having more side effects overall, but if somebody's really wanting to try something daily, that is also an option. And of course, all the oral medications are daily medications as well. And this is also where it would be extremely exciting to have orforglipron, which we don't have right now, but that is the daily oral GLP-1 medication that likely will be approved for 2026. So just everybody out there who's interested in a daily medication, but not Saxenda, keep your eyes out for that as well. Next question. I get worried when you say as far as the medication will take them for a number of reasons. I'm nowhere near close to losing 15% of my body weight. I've been on Zepbound for 20 weeks, currently have stalled out on weight loss, but even then I've only lost about 5%. I worry that when I eventually max out at 15, I'll still be tragically short of the 15% loss. It just makes me feel broken. How a person at such an extreme calorie deficit can still not lose weight is beyond me. Okay, thank you for sending that in. Well, first of all, my heart goes out to you. I am really sorry if you are not having weight loss as anticipated, because that can be really hard for people, in addition to not losing the weight that they wanted to, and they're also listening to all their friends or everybody they know who's losing a lot of weight on this medication. So thank you for sharing, and I'm really sorry to hear that. I don't know where this person is in their weight loss dosing. So I don't know how close they are to that. If they're on Zepbound, I don't know how close they are to that 15 milligram dose. If they're feeling really upset and they've only lost 5% at 5 milligram dose, I wouldn't worry about that at all. If they're at 12.5 milligrams and they've only lost 5%, I'd say, okay, time to have a chat with your doctor. Of course, when these things happen for patients that I see, I'm always looking at what else is going on. Has anything changed lifestyle-wise for them? Do they have medications that could be interfering? Do they have medical issues where I know they're not going to get maybe the optimal amount of weight loss? Have we done their labs recently? I always want to check and make sure nothing else is going on. There are always going to be the people at the other end of the spectrum that they don't lose a lot of weight, or some people may even gain weight on this medication. So that's very rare, but that does happen too. So that's always a possibility that sometimes this is just not the right medication for everybody. That happens. What I do think is really helpful is acknowledging that you're disappointed. That's important. Like, yeah, that is not fun. You thought this medication was going to work well. It didn't. Also, we want to transition out of like this I'm broken mentality. And I always like to turn it, because that nobody feels good when they tell themselves like I'm broken, right? Like, where are you going to go from there? Usually it's nowhere good, right? It's not going to help you. So, and our bodies are always trying to heal themselves. So I like to look at the body from that perspective of like, let's move out of the I'm broken and move into, okay, what's the data, the science? Like, let's look at this objectively, because I'm broken, while it may feel very true, it's not going to help. If I have a patient who says that to me, it's not going to help them get to where they want to go. So acknowledging that you're disappointed is important, but don't stay there. As much as you can, as much as a patient can, I want them to then switch into curiosity about why this isn't working. Because when we're curious, we can find solutions, but also we're not judging our body. So curiosity in terms of, okay, what else is going on? Those things that I just talked about. And what else is available? So if I have a patient, they've only lost 5%, maybe this is the time that I want to try them on a different medication. Or maybe this is the time that I want to try to add a medication. Or depending on the patient, maybe this is the time. Maybe this is maybe we've tried all the medications and this is the last one. And maybe this is the time, if it's the right patient, that I want to also have them see the bariatric surgeon. Like, what are all the tools, all the other things out there, and getting really curious about, okay, what else can I do? Because that is the emotion, that is the feeling, that is the mindset that is going to get a patient into productive problem solving and actually getting closer to the results that they want. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, and please keep us updated. Next question. Because I'm at a good body weight, my blood pressure is great, and my A1C is perfect, the pharmacist at my HMO won't refill or renew my Ozempic anymore. My primary care doctor says she'll prescribe Victoza instead. Is Victoza just as effective for diabetes control and weight loss maintenance? Okay. Great question. So this is a good illustration of how many other logistical issues come up for people when they are when they're on a weight loss medication. And these are very difficult stories, because here somebody is like, clearly everything's going well, right? Like things, like everything is looking like they're happy at their weight. These other metrics of their health are looking really good. And yet they have to change, not because of any issue with them, but because really of an insurance-driven issue. And that is not a great thing, but it does happen. So in terms of, so getting past the idea that it should be different and these things should never happen, getting past that to the question of, is Victoza going to help the same way that Ozempic does? So Ozempic is semaglutide, and semaglutide is Ozempic or Wegovy once a week injection, where people can count on losing, on average, about 12 to 15% of their total body weight. Victoza is the FDA approved version of liraglutide. Now, liraglutide was the first GLP-1 medication that was approved for weight loss, and it is known for weight loss as Saxenda. This is that daily medication, and the generic name is liraglutide. This is a daily injection medication for weight loss and for diabetes. So for someone who has diabetes, they might be taking Victoza. The dosing is slightly different. You can go up a bit higher on Saxenda, same medication, but you can go up higher on Saxenda. You can't go up quite as high on Victoza. So that is one difference between Saxenda and Victoza that could impact the efficacy for somebody. Now, if it's somebody on maintenance, and they're going to have to convert to a dose of liraglutide that's maybe a little bit lower and see where they land. So if I have a patient who's going from semaglutide or Ozempic to liraglutide or Victoza, I'm going to bump them down to a low-medium dose of Victoza and see what happens. And then we're going to have to titrate it depending on how they're doing, what their weight is looking like. And it's going, like all these transition periods, I always tell people you may gain a little bit of weight, you may not lose any weight, and you may have side effects. So anybody who's doing that, transitioning from one GLP-1 medication to another, these are all things that I tell my patients to be aware of. In general, is Victoza just as effective for diabetes control and weight loss? In general, people are, for weight, they can lose on average about 10 to 12%. It's not typically as strong as the result for semaglutide or Ozempic or Mounjaro, which is tirzepatide. So in general, it's not as strong, but also everybody's different. And it really depends on how, it's also going to depend on, is this somebody who was really at their goal weight at a high dose, or were they able to get away with a lower dose? Because the chances are they can also likely get away on a lower dose of this medication, and so it might not matter as much. Technically, all things being equal, Victoza is not as strong a medication for weight loss, but again, it always depends on the person. And so it doesn't mean that somebody can't have a really good response on this medication, but you just don't know until you try. So what a great question. Thank you so much. And I hope that is a very smooth transition for you. What great questions today. Also, if you want to work with me directly, I do work as a weight loss coach to help people around the world with the non-medical aspects of their weight loss. There are a lot of you out there who are on a medication, but still struggling to get to the gym, not really happy with how you're eating, leaving results on the table. I've heard it all, I've seen it all, and I'm happy to chat further with you if this sounds like you. I will leave all that info down below. Thank you so much for watching, and please be well.